Mom, as a lifelong medical professional, how would you describe what happened to you in December?
Oh, December 9th of this year, it was definitely a miracle. There's just no question about it.
If you would sum it
Um,
up in one word.
well, there's only one word to describe it, and that word is it was a miracle.
Well, I agree because I was kind of there the whole time. Oops, I just shook my whole stage, which is a good transition. Hello and welcome to Miracle Mom and Michael. She's Miracle Mom.
And he is Michael.
Good job, right on cue. If this ends up being episode one of our podcast, because we've been experiencing some technical difficulties, if this happens to be the one that anybody happens to watch, let me explain what is happening here. This is Mom. That's Miracle Mom right there, and that's her older brother, my Uncle John. Your how many brothers and sisters do you have, Mom?
I have one sister and three brothers.
And this is the oldest of the lot here with you.
Actually, John is the youngest.
John's the youngest. Oh,
Yeah, of the boys.
so I'm
Three
learning.
boys and then two girls.
The oldest was
So,
Bill.
yeah, there was Bill, Dave, John, me, and then my sister Cheryl.
So there's your baby brother.
Right.
Who's the youngest of all? Dave?
You mean the boys or all of us?
Of all of everybody.
Oh,
Oh,
Cheryl
okay.
is the baby.
All right. So we got them all in there, right? Dave, Bill, John, Cheryl, and Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Miracle Mom. Her first name is Bonnie. So, Mom, you had a miracle, and this was just a couple months ago. And in talking with you about it, I had the idea to, whether it was a podcast or not, you should probably document what happened to you, and this is probably the best format for it because when miracles happen, why do miracles happen?
Why do miracles happen? Boy, that is a good question. I've thought about that actually quite a bit. When it comes to miracles, being a Christian,
Pardon? You cut out.
as a Christian, I'm a Christian,
Yeah.
and I believe miracles are happening around us probably all the time, for sure throughout our lives. And we're not aware of a lot of them. But when you have a miracle that is so obvious to you, it's life changing. And that's what happened to me. I can't really say that it's changed my whole life. I'm 75 years old, so I've lived a lot of my life. But it's one of those miracles that stops you in your tracks, and questions begin to surface. People who've been saved from one thing or another, some tragedy, you always hear them say, I after this happened to me, I wondered, why was I not gone? What's the reason? What's the purpose for this? That's pretty much the focus that I've had since it happened. I've lived a long life. I've had a good life, and you think to yourself, I'm toward the end of my life, so there must be something here now that I need to accomplish
So,
before my life.
in other words, the miracle you experienced was a near death, like you should have died, and and you didn't, and the only explanation is a miracle. Is that correct? Am I stating that correctly?
Yeah, I put it that way. I've lived a good long life, and you kind of begin to ask yourself, why was it not my time? I mean, I know I'm ready to go, so that's not an issue. So, I've given a lot of thought in that respect
Well,
as to,
the fact that I'm hearing your voice, that anybody, if anybody watches or listens to this, the mere fact that we can hear your voice right now is the result of a miracle. Like We wouldn't be, you wouldn't have any words to say if you were 6 feet under right now. Not to be morbid, but right?
It's the truth.
Well,
It's the truth.
so for the viewer, so that anybody who wants to, hear what happened, I'm going to break this up into segments, probably 5 segments. Again, if our technical issues stay at bay. This is episode 1 of 5, and the reason this picture keeps blowing is because when I breathe on it, this is just the picture that I have propped up on the desktop here. So this may become a more highly produced venture because that's what I do for a living. A real quick background about myself. I've been working in the entertainment industry for about 15 years. I'm an award-winning media journalist, whatever. That's not really about me, but that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years, except Hollywood just shut down this past month. Everybody in town is scrambling, a lot of people out of work, and so my life has changed dramatically. Holed up at home with my kids, sheltering in place. I was a little ahead of the curve. I was paying attention to world events and went out and bought a bunch of supplies and make sure everybody washes their hands. Don't touch your face. We just need to get out of the habit of touching our faces when we've touched anything, anywhere, unless except at home. If you keep your home clean and safe, it's fine. But literally, that's the only way to guarantee to avoid it. Hand to face. From hand to face. That's how it's transmitted. In the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. There's your public service announcement. So my life has changed dramatically. Why don't you give a little bit of background about your life, your career, your profession? I already mentioned that you've been a lifelong medical professional. Tell us about who you are, Mom.
Okay, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. 75 years is a long time. But in looking back, it's always interesting to look back. When I was in high school, actually my dream was to become a journalist. I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to go into journalism. And that was my dream in high school. And then, but also during my school years, I was involved in Girl Scouts, which everybody is familiar with. And it was during Girl Scouts that we were earning badges. You earned certain badges, and one of them was the health badge. So they had what was called the Candy Striper role that we could go into, and that meant they gave us a uniform to wear, and we would go to the local hospital and just do whatever the nurses would give us to do in terms of tasks. So that exposed me to the hospital environment. And that was fine. And I really, really liked it. I enjoyed it. In fact, I loved it. And I would even volunteer, when we didn't have to go, I would volunteer to go. And then that piqued my interest in the health profession. But I still wanted to be a writer. Well, what happened in high school was toward the end of the senior year, you always met with the guidance counselor in those last few months to talk about your future, where your education plans wanted to go, and that sort of thing. And I had always talked to the counselor about being a writer, being a journalist. And this guidance counselor immediately dashed my dreams by saying, well, you may want to rethink that because becoming a writer is not necessarily a good way to guarantee that you're going to have a paycheck every week. It was that kind of a conversation. So he put a real damper, and he hurt my feelings, quite frankly.
The dream killer.
But the dream killers started showing up. And then I got the same kind of feedback from my parents. My father in particular, he said, you want to pick a career that's going to guarantee you an income to keep you stable throughout your life. So that that was the second dream killers that showed up. Well, in any case, as it turned out, I got more and more involved in this candy striper role, and my interest toward the health profession grew. So to make a long story short, when I graduated from high school, I did decide to go into nursing, and that's what I pursued. So my education, I went into a nursing program at a college close to home. A lot of things took place, though, during those years that it kept me in the nursing profession, but there were changes in that path that came along the way. It's kind of a long and involved story to have to tell, but
for another episode.
Yeah, exactly. But I earned my nursing degree as a registered nurse, and at the time that I earned it, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona, so I was licensed by the state of Arizona as my original license, and worked in a hospital in Arizona for a number of years. And as the years went by, and as life does, got married, had a family, moved around a lot, but my career did end up being in the medical profession, and I've done a lot of things in that profession: hospital nursing, home health, a lot of different venues that really gave me a broad base in the healthcare field. So it became a very rich and expanded experience. I was not the kind of registered nurse who signed up with a hospital and stayed there for the next 40 years at all. I did a lot of moving around for a lot of reasons, but gained.
How many hospitals did you work in?
Well, that's best answered by saying I'm licensed in 7 states. So.
Got it. So, but you worked at. Like, I know you worked at Eisenhower Medical Center.
I worked at Good Samaritan Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. I worked at Eisenhower Medical Center in Rancho Mirage, California. I worked in Jewish Hospital in Cincinnati. I worked in my hometown hospital for a couple of years.
How about in the Bay Area?
Oh, in the Bay Area, what I did in the Bay Area in California was, when we moved there, I signed up with a registry and discovered really that's the best way. If you're the kind of nurse that I am, it's the best way to get into hospitals because they give you assignments. And you can go to that hospital, and when you work in that hospital, you can evaluate the environment. Is this a place that I think I want to work? What's the overall attitude, I guess, is the word to say, of the environment? What opportunities are here for me, and that sort of thing. So it worked out really well. So in the Bay Area, I didn't work in any one hospital exclusively. I worked in a lot of the Kaiser hospitals in that area.
Gotcha.
At that time, I worked at Concord Hospital in Concord. So it got me out and into a variety of work settings.
All right, so you're pretty well versed in what hospitals are like, and I have plenty of questions about. Ooh, I keep shaking this desktop. Sorry. I have plenty of questions that probably pertain to what's going on in the world today. But let's move on with our topic. I did want to talk a little bit about you and I and our relationship, since this is Miracle Mom and Michael.
Okay.
So, in your assessment, how has our relationship been over the years?
Our relationship over the years, oh goodness. Well, I would best answer that by saying I'm the one who's blessed to have Michael as my son in so many ways.
Oh, you're going to get a lot of people sick if you go on that way, please.
You want the truth, right?
I'm going to change the subject.
You ask the question, you're going to get the answer. I don't know. Every genuine mother will tell you that each of her children are very, very special in their own ways. And
careful, they may be watching this, so.
Oh, I don't know. I have such warm memories of Michael. Oh, a lot of memories that come all of a sudden. Michael was a really, really easy child. That's the truth.
Okay, I didn't want to go into all that. I'm going to start, getting embarrassed. Okay. But I've always felt the same, that we've had a good relationship. But there have been long spans of time when, may have been a year or more go by when we didn't talk, we weren't on the phone, so our as far as our regular interaction, for decades, it was just, a call or two a year, right?
Well, yeah, there was a lot going on. You grew up and became an adult, so you went on with your own life, and that's pretty natural.
So you're making excuses for me, the bad son who doesn't talk to his mother.
Well, no, you went to college. When kids go to college, they go to college, they're away from home.
Yeah, but
that's to be expected.
People have phones, right? There's such a thing as phone. Call your mother. There's people that talk to their mother every day.
I've never been a phone person.
That's where I get it.
I guess I'm not that person. I'm not a person. I don't feel. How would I say it? I'm not one of those coffee over the fence kind of people with the neighbors, that sort of thing. I always figure, if you need to talk on the phone, for me, I'm going to talk to you if I have something important to say, for sure. But I've just never been a chatty Cathy person. I'm still not.
Got it. So am I forcing you out of your comfort zone now?
Not really. I don't feel uncomfortable.
Well, whenever we talk on the phone, even when it was few and far between, we always had a great conversation.
Yeah, right.
Has it changed? How has it changed of late?
Well, I think we've talked on the phone more in these past, I don't know, I'm going to say, 5 years than we have in our entire life.
I would say in the last 5 months.
5 months, okay.
Right.
That's true.
Well, like in September of 2019, I started that other podcast. Right?
Right. Okay.
So, for the viewer, I've been working on a project for like 2.5 years, and it's this big project that's kind of all mine. It's like when it's all yours, you're responsible for it. All the work is on you, and it's in development, and anybody that knows about development, it takes forever, and sometimes it never goes anywhere, but this one looks like it's going somewhere. Even with the world turned upside down right now, it still looks like it has potential. Anyway, and in the middle of writing this script for this project, I just had this whim to start a podcast, and it's a audio only, and it's I'll tell you the name of it, but not right now. Eventually, and I just did it as a journal, a documentation of the process I was going through, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes when you're trying to develop and produce and create a a film or a TV show, anything. And it was, I think, a lot of us, my mom and I are both Christians. I know not everybody that watches this will be a Christian, but as a Christian, you wonder, how do you hear the voice of God? Well, you read the Bible. That's clearly the Word of God, but how do you in your life navigate what you should do and what you shouldn't do? And there's the moral compass. That's certainly God guiding us, but how about things to do with your life, like purpose, etc.? And I just had this inkling to start a podcast, and I am so glad I did, because of the things that have unfolded since September. Starting a podcast was like, I didn't put any effort into emailing it out and trying to get fans for it. It's just, I'm documenting what I'm going through, and I know my mom will love it. So as a result, what do you think of the podcast?
For me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
You're the only one who's listened to it, so. No, there's been a few others, but you've listened to more than anyone.
Well, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a very special way, for me to stay in contact with you, and I find it very stimulating. I'm one of these people. I describe myself as an introvert who mentally, I need the mental stimulation, and that's sort of what I'm about. And with your podcast, the thing that I enjoy about it is it keeps my interest going. I find myself asking a lot of questions because you bring up a lot of topics in your podcast, a lot of them.
I'm all over the place, in other words, right?
You're what?
I'm all over the place.
Oh, yes, all over the place. But I enjoy that part of it the most. It's not boring. It's and if I haven't listened to a podcast or I missed a podcast, I make sure to go back and get that podcast, because you do a lot of revealing of yourself. And there's a lot in there that when I listen to it, I think, gosh, he never told me that. Or, oh, is that what he believes? Is that what he thinks? I mean, it's very stimulating that way. It draws me closer to you, not only to you, but you share a lot openly, and it's heartfelt and
all right,
honest.
It's a great commercial, Mom. There, this is just a plug for my other podcast. No, actually, on that note, we're figuring this out as we go along, and it's kind of how that podcast unfolded. You've listened to it, you heard it unfold and kind of develop into a structure. Well, that's what's going to happen with this one. And so on this note, I'm going to end episode 1, because we need to get on to your story about what happened to you. We got to know you a little bit, got to know me a little bit. Anybody who's watching this that doesn't know us, everybody else watching this that does know us is rolling their eyes right now at our ridiculousness. Anyway, so I'm going to sign off.
Who are these people?
Yeah, who are these people that think they're worth us watching and listening to them? We are who we are. We're Miracle Mom and Michael, haha. And let's say goodbye, Mom. I'm going to sign off, and then we're going to start episode 2 here in a sec.
Okay, signing off.
Bye, everybody.
This is Mom.
And